Hi, it's Frukeru with CityStates, and today we want to continue with our city development videos and showcase some of the newer functioning buildings added to the game, which orientate around unit production and military population management. Last time, we explored turning resources into weapons, but what good is this without an army using it to crush your foes? So my city here is looking a lot healthier than usual. We've just got access to a new build of the game and there's quite a lot in it now, and there's quite a lot of testing needed to be done. So I kind of built up a little bit of everything, had a bit of fun with it, but for the sake of this video we're going to be looking at these three buildings up here. This is the camp, the archery range and the barracks, and these are going to really serve as the cornerstones of your military. And we're going to talk about the barracks first. So the barracks is essentially a building that manages your military population. And by military population, we previously looked at our regular civilians or citizens. And you might have remembered, if you've watched our older videos, we assigned these to things like farms, to lumber yards or foresters, mines, etc. And basically, once they were assigned, they worked on these buildings. And military recruitment isn't so much different. Basically, you can conscript your citizens into military service. So right now, if you have a look at this, you can see we have a total of 129 citizens, and 4 of these have been conscripted during my practices of trying to record this video. We're going to add another one here. And basically what happens is when you add a citizen to this building, you're essentially enrolling them in military training. They're not training in anything just yet, but they are ready to be trained depending on what you want to do with them. And they are taken out of the general citizen pool, meaning that these 5 citizens here cannot be put to work on a farm. They can't do anything else. They're just waiting to be trained. Now, this doesn't cost anything to actually put them in, and we can take them out as we wish. So if you feel like you're going to overcommit to this, don't worry too much. You have a bit of freedom to play around with it at no cost. But generally, you're probably going to be just upgrading this as you go, particularly early on. And we're going to add, I think we're going to add 8, because it's important to remember that in this game, you have what is called a unit and you have what is called a squad. And a squad is what you will actually field on a tile in battles. And a squad is made up of individual units. So for example, a melee squad or a shield bearer squad requires 10 shield bearer units to be made, combined into a squad and then fielded. You cannot run a squad of 9 melee units. And then if you're battling and your units take some damage, or your squads take some damage, confusing myself here, you're going to end up with less units coming out of it in that squad, and then you're going to need to make up the difference. So playing tactically and trying to take as few losses as possible is actually going to be rewarding you in the long run, as you will soon see. This also determines, depending on how high leveled it is, that how many units or squads you can build in total. So right now we're going to be able to make quite a few of these because we do have everything leveled up pretty high. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the camp here. And the camp is for training melee units. So straight away you're going to notice that there's no ranged units there. That's because they actually have their own separate building. And here we can train melee, or as I like to call them, shield bearers, dual wield and two-handers. And just so you know, this is leveled up to the max because I'm trying to obviously do everything a little bit faster. But what actually happens here is you initially only have access to the melee unit, and as you level it up, you get access to these other more advanced units, and you also get a shorter time on production. So I've got it right down to 54 seconds with the current balance implementations. This obviously could change in the final product, but when I started out, this was much, much higher. So not only do you have to manage the food aspect of training these, but you're also going to have to think of your time. It may not be worth building millions and millions of melee units and ignore the others if you have access to them, because obviously you're going to want to be strategic in your playstyle, and you're going to want to have a mix and exploit weaknesses of your enemies using different counters and tactics. So something to keep in mind there. For the sake of this video, we're actually going to build dual wheels because they are awesome, my favorite unit in the game, and also they take less individual units to make into a squad, so it'll be a little bit faster. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, drag this down, 6, 7, and that's all I can actually produce at one time here. So I'm going to go now into the Archery Range. And this obviously is for ranged units, and this is quite nice because you're probably almost always going to want to actually have rangers in your party. They're just very, very useful, and they can exploit a lot of weaknesses and misplays your opponent makes. So we're going to line these up as well and have them going at the same time. And we've actually done 14 together, 7 and 7, and I did pre-plan my population here. I had it up to 14, so we'll be able to use these last two conscripts to add the missing links. And you can actually see in the little armory level or icon here, we can get an overview of what we have. So we can see with the ranged we have 1 ready already. There's 7 that are trained. Technically this is actually training, and we need 8 in total. And when we do a little bit of a time skip in a moment here, we'll actually be able to create these into troops once I add the second units or the remaining units in. So let's just produce, oh, whoops, did not mean to do that. So let's produce this and add that to the list. And we'll add our last ranged unit to the list. And I'll go make a quick coffee and come back to you once these are finished. I've just returned, and as you can see, my units are almost finished building. We've got 4 seconds left on our dual wheels, which should tick over now. And we'll go into our ranged unit, and again 4 seconds left on this. So, as mentioned before, we've built these individual units, and now we need to combine them into a squad. So let's just check, make sure this is finished. Yep, perfect. And we do this by going to the Sword and Shield menu, and you can see now that we have needed 8, ready 8, and we can actually create troops. So there's a slight delay in the development build at the moment, which of course will be ironed out for release, but this should tick over in a second. I'm just going to wait for it to go through before I start clicking on the dual wheels, but this should go any second now. I'll click this anyway. Yeah, there we go. So we have 1 troop now. And this means that we can actually place this down on the battlefield. And once our dual wheels finished, we'll go back to a very, very familiar place that many of you who were following us back in the PvP beta days in January will be familiar with. Let me just click that again. There we go, perfect. So now that we've got this far, the only thing left to do is to actually take these guys onto the battlefield. And we do that by clicking the equipment loadout down here. And you can see that we've got these units assigned into our squad. If we'd made more, we'd be able to go into their respective menus here for their class, and we can equip them into battle, and we can set their loadouts. We will come back and visit this menu again when we've got some more gear recipes in and kind of expand on this a little bit, as I'm sure many of you would like to see what kind of gear you're going to be able to actually use on these units. But for now, we'll just kind of wrap things up by actually taking these into a battle. And you should see we'll just do a little quick AI one here. And there we go. We can place these down like so and start. And that's it. So in our last few videos, we've learned quite a lot. We've gone from setting down a simple farm all the way up to crafting gear and making units for the battlefield. So hopefully you can see that a lot of progress has gone into the game since we started, especially since last January when we played the PvP beta. It was a case of the devs actually manually issuing us these troops. Now we can actually make them ourselves. So that brings us to the end of our unit production and military citizen management video, and we hope that you've enjoyed seeing the process and how far we've come. As always, we'd like to thank our fantastic community for supporting us, and we'd also like to give a round of applause to the devs, who for the most part work behind the scenes but do amazing work putting this all together. As always, if you haven't joined the Discord and want to learn more about the project, make sure to join us. All our social links are in the description below. Both the team and our community love to answer the questions you may have. Take care until next time.